Attention please. This upload is only for educational purpose. No intention to infringe copyrights. Learning English with subtitles. GPITRAL. GPITRAL. Definitely a must-see. Follow us.
Introducing Monsters and Mysteries. Viewer discretion is advised.
The monster's chest was very, very wide. I think all the time what would have happened if I'd actually hit it.
I had the gun ready to defend myself and my son against the monster.
This half man, half goat that lived out there on the Pope Lake. He'd lure kids up on top of the track and then try and kill them.
All of a sudden, all the animals in the forest just started getting really, really, really loud. Looking at each other like, what is going on here?
This program includes dramatic reenactments based on real eyewitness accounts and contains material which is intended for mature audiences. Some of the situations depicted could be life-threatening. Audio described by Penelope Parisi.
The Ozarks. They rose from the primordial oceans nearly 300 million years ago. Today, it's a region so dense and dank, it can shield a people who often choose to be left alone. In the hardscrabble life of Ozarkers, the old stories are held close. Faith in the mysterious and the unexplainable stands fast.
Arkansas as a whole, including the Ozarks, have a long history of sightings of mysterious creatures. This would all be a place where an unknown animal could hide.
The people that really have seen the monster take it seriously.
I know of several people who were skeptical before. They're no longer skeptical.
There is a lot of open space here. There is a lot of dense country that is not explored. You know, you're right at the outer edges of society. So you get a chance to see things that ordinary people don't see.
Caption: Fouke Monster. A map of the United States highlights the location of Arkansas.
In America's heartland, there is but one mountainous region, the Ozarks. On its southern edge lies Fouke, Arkansas, a tiny town of less than 1,000 in the southwest corner of the state. Since 1908, there have been 70 sightings of something monstrous creeping in the woods. One of the latest cases is that of Heather Owens.
Growing up out here in the country in a rural setting was great. I loved it. It's just peaceful, quiet, everybody knows everybody, and I think that's what I like about it.
She was a very active kid. She wanted to be involved in everything, and she pretty much was.
Heather Owen grew up a typical Ozark country kid. Learning to hunt and fish followed soon after learning to walk. And along the way, she heard the legends of the beast that hides in Boggy Creek.
I was always a skeptic. I really didn't pay much attention to the stories about the Fouke monster, but I never thought that I would see one.
One fall night, that would change. Rumors would turn into reality.
September of 2011, probably around 6 o'clock, got my books, my laptop, and my pencils and paper, and I went over to my friend's house to study with her because she had an English paper due at the same time.
Did you go to the review session last Thursday?
I did not. What was going on in that session?
It was terrible. You didn't miss much. I don't think it will help me at all on this test either.
I kept hearing a dog barking. And so probably after 20 minutes of this dog barking, I asked, why is it barking? And she said, oh, she just wants in. She sees the lights on.
It's so annoying.
Around midnight, I gathered up my laptop, my books, and put them in my car. Outside, I noticed that it was very strangely quiet. I didn't hear no crickets, no cows, nothing, no noise. Kind of like a real quiet, almost kind of eerie night. I pulled out of the driveway and I had my radio going because I usually put my radio as loud as I can. And I was just driving down the road like I normally would.
What was normal was about to take a radical turn.
What catches my eye is that I see this thing slouched over or squatting or something, and all of a sudden stands up. And the roll of hay goes about mid-chest to it. The monster's chest was very, very wide, about 3 feet. I'm 5 foot, so I'd say he'd be about 8 feet tall. It kind of looks in my car, goes about like that, looks at it again, and then darts off. After I got the good glimpse, he ran into a thicket across the road, and I didn't see him. He was gone. I was sitting there thinking to myself, what did I just see? What did just happen?
And it might not be over. She was there alone, and all her windows were down.
Heather reaches over to the passenger side of the car to close the window when a black hairy arm reaches in through the sunroof.
Heather was no longer sure what was there or not. But she knew she had to leave and make it to the one person who would understand.
She was just practically screaming out at me. Very high-pitched voice, and her words were running together. I told her to slow down and just wait, slow down. And we went through this process about 2 more times until I heard her come out plain and said that she had just seen the fountain monster. Well, I was scared. I was frightened that something bad could have happened to her.
2 days later, after the incident happened, we went down there during the daytime. My mom wanted to see where I had the sighting. I didn't have any doubts. I knew what I seen. I think all the time of what would have happened if I'd actually hit it. And I'm just seeing hands coming up at me and just thinking the most horrifying thing to scare the living crap out of me. I don't know what he would have done.
Heather Owen has joined the growing legion of believers in the existence of the Fouke monster. The sightings have been clustered in southern Arkansas, and they describe the creature as tall and ape-like.
They looked rather large, you know, and their arms was swinging, you know. Their arms was longer than past their knees, and it was looking back over his right shoulder at me.
Some with close encounters have reported a hideous stench.
Well, it smelled like old wet dog hair, maybe something sort of dead. You know, it was awful. I mean, it was really grotesque.
Others have recounted a scream, like a panther in heat. A few have even seen glowing red eyes the size of silver dollars.
Sometimes seeing the monster for the very first time is a very frightening experience. The very first thing they always say is, don't tell anybody, or don't mention my name.
For the believers, there's a safe haven in Fouke. A diner that dishes out generous helpings of monster lore.
When a person tells me they've spotted something that's so above the ordinary, I don't know whether I'm in a position to say, you've got to be lying. You didn't see anything like that. And it's easy for me to do that, but I'm not one of those kind of persons who just dismisses what a person says.
Skeptics, say, you don't believe this, do you? Well, as someone who's interviewed countless people who believe they saw something unexplainable, at the end of the day, I come away with the belief that these people actually saw something something they couldn't explain, something that frightened them.
Now, one local Ozark hunter says his belief has turned into proof.
When you see it for the first time, it changes your outlook on what you think you know and everything that you've been told in your life.
In the Ozarks, residents of Fouke, Arkansas have long claimed that a man-like beast hides in the area's swampy forests. One of the latest is college student Heather Owen. A short trip home from studying turned into one of the most terrifying nights of her life. After that, there was no uncertainty for Heather. The Fouke monster is real.
Right here is Boggy Creek, ground zero for the Fouke monster. This is a very significant area because where we stand would be an area where a creature, if it was to come out of that more remote, rugged area and approach civilization, this would kind of be where it would come to the limits and possibly be seen by some of the people that live out on these county roads. In fact, a lot of the sightings took place along Boggy Creek.
My family goes back probably within a 200-mile radius of this area, probably 100 years ago. My dad started me fishing, I guess, before I could walk. When I was a little child, he would take me off in the woods and teach me how to track deer and hunt squirrels. And we filled the freezers up with squirrels, and my mom would cook them up and put meat on the table.
Doyle Holmes thought he knew every creature in the Ozark forest, except the one he came across one foggy morning in 2004.
It was, I would say, 6 o'clock in the morning. The sun was just starting to come up. I got on the lake early that day. It was very foggy. And I heard some splashes in the water. And then as the light started to shine through the fog, I could see a silhouette of a bipedal animal standing up in the water. When you first see it, it just runs through your mind that you can't be possibly seeing what your eyes are telling you you're seeing. It looked like he was hunting for something in the water. He was kicking debris up out of the water. It looked like he was fishing. From the waist down, it looked to me like a Bigfoot that everybody had been describing. It could not have been a human. The animal had to be at least 800 pounds.
Sitting in his small rowing boat in the middle of the lake, an astonished Doyle watches the Fouke monster through some trees as he splashes about near the edge of the water.
As amazing as the sight was for Doyle Holmes that morning, he couldn't be sure what he'd seen. That would change.
It was just after Thanksgiving, and we were all full of turkey, and it was starting to get dark, and we thought, well, let's go out in the woods since we got some time with the kids out of school, and let's see if we can get a hog.
With an abundance of habitat, food, and water, the Ozark woods are alive with a nasty assortment of feral pigs.
Wild hogs are dangerous, so you gotta kind of watch your step when you're hunting wild hogs.
Near the same lake where he'd seen the hairy biped splashing along the bank,
check it out.
Doyle and his son were setting out to track hogs.
Yeah. What's that? Look.
My son come across a footprint that he couldn't identify. So he called me over. At that time, I was looking at something that I couldn't identify. I was stunned at what I saw. I couldn't believe what I was looking at. The first thing you think of is the Falk monster.